mathematical miracle of the Quran was discovered? When I came to this country, the United States, in 1968, I read the English translations of the Quran and I didn't like any of them. I read them all. Yusuf Ali, Muhammad Ali, Pickthall, Arbery, N.J. Dawood, and so on, all of them. Even as far back as George Sale's translation. Some of them actually distorted the basic doctrines of the Quran. And that was serious enough to encourage me to translate the Quran myself for my own children. I did it just for local consumption. However, because I'm a chemist, I'm not a professional religionist, I decided not to move from one verse to the next unless I knew exactly what every word and every verse meant. I made a pledge to God that I will not move from one verse to the next unless I know exactly what it meant. So I started the translation and I finished the first surah, Al-Fatiha, in 7 days. Then I moved on to the next verse, the first verse of surah number 2, Al-Baqarah. And I found that it consisted of only 3 letters, Alif, Lam, Mim, A-L-M. Of course, I knew this all along since I was a young child, but now I'm trying to translate it. I wanted to know exactly what the significance of A-L-M is. I looked up all the tafsirs, interpretations, and all the books written about these letters, and everybody, all the scholars said, we do not know what these letters mean. So I started my own research, and after many attempts and many failures, I decided to put the whole Quran in the computer. I didn't know what to look for. So I had the computer count every letter in every surah. And the objective was to look for any mathematical connections or any mathematical pattern between that involves these letters. There are 29 surahs in the Quran prefixed with these initials, different sets of initials. 14 sets of initials to be exact. Alif, Lam, Mim, Noon, Sad, Qaf, Ta, Sin, Mim, Yasin, Taha, and so on. 14 of them. And sure enough, after 4 years of research, a mathematical pattern emerged with a common denominator binding all these initials without a single exception. And the common denominator was 19. As it turned out, and as you will see in this program, every element of the Quran, the number of verses, the numbers assigned to the surahs, numbers of words, the letters, every letter in the Quran is mathematically composed beyond human capabilities. And the common denominator that binds all these mathematical, physical facts is the number 19. Let us get down to business and look at the Quran itself. And I would like to remind you that all the items you're going to see are factual observations. They're all physical facts in the Quran. So here is a big Quran that we can see together. And the first item of this miracle is that the first verse in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, consists of 19 Arabic letters. Here they are: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 letters. And the whole Quran has 114 surahs. As we see here, the last surah is number 114. And 114 is a multiple of 19. 19 times 6. And it consists of 6 verses, by the way. So 19 times 6 gives us the total number of surahs in the Quran, 114. Now, if we count from this surah towards the other surahs, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. We find that number 19 is the first revelation in Quran, surah number 96, and it says اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق, the first revelation. So the first surah revealed is positioned in the Quran atop the last 19 surahs in the Quran. You also notice that this surah consists of 19 verses. The first revelation was 19 words exactly. Here they are: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we go to the next page. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. This was the first revelation through the Prophet Muhammad, and it consisted of 19 words. If you count the letters in these 19 words, you find that the total is 76. 19 times 4. And if you count the letters in the whole surah, the first surah revealed, you find that the total is 285 letters, or 19 times 15. The last surah revealed was surah number 110, and it consists also of 19 words. Here they are: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So the last revelation and the first revelation consisted of 19 words. Now, if you go back to the very beginning, the first verse in the Quran, as you heard before, the first verse of the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, consists of 19 letters. Every word, there are 4 words here, and every word is mentioned in the Quran a number of times, which is consistently a multiple of 19. The word ism, which means name, is mentioned in the Quran 19 times exactly. If you wish to use the word bism, it is mentioned 3 times, but if you add the numbers assigned to the verses and surahs where the 3 times of bism occur, the total is 114, 19 times 6. The second word, Allah, is mentioned in the whole book 2,698 times, or 19 times 142. The third word, Ar-Rahman, is mentioned in the whole Quran 57 times, or 19 times 3. The last word, Ar-Rahim, is mentioned in the whole book 114 times, or 19 times 6. As you see, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the first verse in the Quran, is very important. And you will see it at the beginning of every surah in the Quran. Every surah has Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim at the beginning except one. However, only the first verse of the first surah is numbered. It has number 1. When you go to the other surahs, you find that this opening statement has no number. This is why we take only the first opening statement to represent all the Bismillahs in the Quran, all the opening statements of the Quran. If you go to Surah 9, you will notice that this surah does not have a Basmala. It says here that this surah does not have Bismillah. Now, since the Quran has 114 surahs, and this one does not have an opening statement, this will mean that we have only 113 Basmalas in the Quran, and this number is not divisible by 19. But we find that this missing Bismillah is made up in Surah number 27. So if you go to Surah number 27, you will see that we have 2 Bismillahs. This is Surah number 27. And there is one Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim at the beginning, like every other surah except Surah 9. And there is an extra one in the middle of the surah, right here, in verse 30. You'll see another Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So this surah contains 2 of them, 2 of the opening statement or Basmalas. One at the beginning and one in verse 30. And this restores the number of this important opening statement to 114, or 19 times 6. Also, if you count the surahs from the missing Bismillah of Surah 9, see, there's the missing Bismillah of Surah 9, and then we count the surahs from here to the place where we find the extra Bismillah. Here is 1, this is number 1, 2 surahs, 3 surahs, 4 5 6. We are counting from the missing Bismillah to the extra Bismillah. This will be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. We didn't get to Surah 27 yet. This is 25, which is the 17th Surah from the missing Bismillah. Here's 18, and you'll find that the surah that has 2 Bismillahs, Surah number 27, is Surah number 19. From the missing Bismillah, to the extra Bismillah, from Surah 9 to Surah 27, we find exactly 19 surahs, inclusive. This is the surah that has 2 Bismillah. And it is surah number 19 after the missing Bismillah of Surah 9. From the missing Bismillah in Surah 9 to the extra Bismillah in Surah 27, there are 19 surahs. So when you count the surahs from the missing Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim of Surah 9 to the extra Bismillah in Surah 27, you find 19 surahs. Now, watch this. If you add the numbers of the surahs, the numbers assigned to the surahs, from 9 to 27, from the missing Bismillah to the extra Bismillah, that is 9 plus 10 plus 11 plus 12 plus 13, all the way to plus 26 plus 27, the total is 342, which is a multiple of 19. It is 19 times 18. And this is half the story. You add the numbers of the surahs from the missing Bismillah to the extra Bismillah, 9 plus 10 plus 11, all the way to 27. The total, 342, is exactly the number of words between the 2 Bismillahs of Surah 27. The number of words, as you see here. This total, 342, is exactly the number of words between this Bismillah in Surah 27 and the second Bismillah of Surah 27. You count these words, you count all these words, and you'll find that the total up to this word here, before the second Bismillah, up to this word, the total is 342, which equals the total of the numbers of surahs from the missing Bismillah to this extra Bismillah. Verses, ayat, in the Quran, from the beginning, from the first ayah or verse to the very end, to the last ayah, is 6,346, which is a multiple of 19. The total number of ayat, verses in the Quran, 6,346, or 19 times 334. As I mentioned before, there are 29 surahs in Quran that are initial with these Quranic initials. And the first initial in the Quran is in surah number 2, the first verse. Alif Lam Mim. The last initial is the initial noon in surah number 68, which is right here. This initial here is the last initial. This here is the first initial, and this is the last initial. The number of ayat or verses in this section here, from the first initial to the last initial, is 5,263 ayat or verses. 19 times 277. You just start at Alif Lam Mim, the first Quranic initial, and you count all the verses in here up to this verse in Surah 68, and you'll find that the total is 5,263, or 19 times 277. Also, if you count the word Allah in this section between the first initial and the last initial, you'll find that the total of the word Allah here is 2,641, which is a multiple of 19. 19 times 139. And of course, if you count the word Allah outside of this section, that will be here and before Alif Lam Mim. The word Allah is 57 times, is found 57 times, or 19 times 3. In the section from the first initial Alif Lam Mim to the last initial Noon, there are exactly 38 surahs without initials. The uninitial surahs here are 38, which is a multiple of 19. 19 times 2. So this is another physical fact. Now, I mentioned that outside of this section, there are 57 words Allah that's outside the initial section of the Quran. In this part and this part to the end, there are 57 words Allah. If you add the numbers of the surahs, the numbers assigned to the surahs, like this number here, and the numbers assigned to the verses, the total is 2,432, or 19 times 128. Now I'm talking about the numbers assigned to the surahs and verses, where you find the word Allah outside of the initial section. You add these numbers assigned to the surahs and to the verses wherever you find the word Allah, and the total is a multiple of 19. Well, this proves that the numbers assigned to the surahs and the numbers assigned to the verses are from God, not from humans. Al-Quran is mentioned in the Quran 57 times. That is 19 times 3. Isn't that profound? And if you add the numbers of the surahs and the numbers of verses where the word Quran is found, the total is 2,660, which is 19 times 140. I'm talking about the numbers. For example, this word here, Al-Quran, is in Surah 17. See, the surah number is 17. And the verse number is 45, as you see here. You take these numbers, the 57 times where the word Quran is found in the Quran, and you add the numbers of the verses and the numbers of the surahs all together, the total is 2,660, or 19 times 140. There are other grammatical forms of this word, Al-Quran, like Qur'anan and Qur'anahu. And if you add all the surahs and all the verses, the numbers of the verses and the numbers of the surahs, where these forms, different forms of the word Quran is found, the grand total is 3,363, or 19 times 177. Of course, the word Quran is very special, and this is why it is so intricately composed within the Quran. The first pillar of Islam, mainly that God is one, is mentioned in the Quran exactly 19 times. That Allahu Wahid, God is one, is mentioned in the Quran exactly 19 times. Now, there's also the word Wahdahu, worship God alone. This commandment to worship God alone, Wahdahu, is mentioned in the Quran 5 times, and if you add the numbers of the verses and the numbers of surahs where the word Wahdahu, worship God alone, occurs, the total is 361, or 19 times 19. So this emphasizes the importance of worshiping God alone. The word Wahid, referring to God as one, is mentioned in the Quran 19 times, and the word Wahdahu is mentioned 5 times, but when you add the verses and surahs numbers where this word Wahdahu is found, the total is 361, 19 times 19. Let's keep it there. For example, this word Wahdahu happens in verse 12 of surah number 40. So you take this number 40 and the number of the verse 12, and you do this with every time you see the word Wahdahu in the Quran, and the total is 361, 19 times 19. The other 4 pillars of Islam, the Salat, the Zakat, the Hajj, and Siyam, are mentioned in the Quran 114 times, or 19 times 6. Now when you take the word Salat, for example, which happens in the Quran 67 times, and you take the numbers of verses and the numbers of the surahs, where every time you see this word Salat, and you add them up, the total is a multiple of 19. It is 4,674, or 19 times 246. The word Salat throughout the Quran. You add the verses and the numbers of the verses and the numbers of surahs where the word Salat occurs, and the total is 4,674 or 19 times 246. If you go to the word zakat, you find that zakat and hajj, you add the numbers of the verses and the numbers of surahs where zakat and hajj are found, and the total is 2,888 or 19 times 19 times 8. This is zakat and hajj together. You add the numbers of the verses and the numbers of the surahs throughout the Quran where you see zakat and hajj. When you look at the word siyam in the Quran, in the whole Quran, the fasting of Ramadan, you will see that it occurs 6 times, and if you add the numbers of the verses to the numbers of the surahs, every time you see this word siyam in all its forms, the total is 1,387 or 19 times 37. So the basic pillars of Islam, the numbers assigned to the surahs and verses where these words are found, all these numbers are multiples of 19.
فبهذا الحديث أنتم مدهنون وتجعلون رزقكم أنكم تكذبون.
The surah entitled Qaf is also initialed with the letter Qaf, and when you count this letter Qaf, every time you see it, you count it in the Quran. In this surah, you will find that the total of the letter Qaf in this surah is 57 or 19 times 3. Also, the only other surah initialed with Qaf, which is surah number 42. There's the letter Qaf as an initial, contains the exact same number of Qafs as the other surah. So you count this Qaf and then you go and find this Qaf and count it and so on. This is a physical fact. The total occurrence of the letter Qaf in this Qaf initial surah is also 57, 19 times 3. Now, when you go back to Surah Qaf here, you notice that Qaf is a symbol or stands for Quran. Q stands for Quran, or Qaf here stands for Quran. And if you add the 57 Qaf Q of this surah, number 50, plus the 57 Qaf or Q in surah number 42, also 57. 57 plus 57 is 114, which is exactly the same number as the surahs of Quran. 57 plus 57 equals 114, the number of surahs in Quran. You notice that the Surah Qaf is number 50 and it consists of 45 verses. If you add the number of the surah, which is 50, to the number of verses in the surah, which is 45, the total is 95, or 19 times 5. Well, this is half the story. If you go to the only other surah initialed with Qaf, which is surah number 42, you see that the number of verses is 53. And if you add the number of the surah to the number of the verses, you get exactly the same total as Surah Qaf, which is 95. 42 plus 53 is 95, or 19 times 5. And with Surah Qaf, 50, the number of the surah plus the number of verses, 45. 50 plus 45 is 95, or 19 times 5. In this surah, the Quran is described as Majid. Qaf wal Quran al Majid. And this word Majid has its numerical value is 57, which is the number of the letter Qaf in this surah. Majid, the M is 30, the Jim is 3, the Ya is 10, and the Dal is 4. And you add these numbers, 30 plus 3 plus 10 plus 4, the total is 57. 19 times 3. When the Quran was revealed, there were no numbers. These letters were used as numbers. So you can look at the meme as the letter meme or M, and also as the numeral 30. The same with the other letters. So this is a universal established system of where the alphabet letters are used as numbers. When we go to Surah 68, which is initialed with the letter Noon, N, if you count the letter N, wherever you see it in this surah, you find that the total is 133, 19 times 7. In the Quran, there are 3 surahs initialed with the letter Sad. The first one is surah number 7. It is initialed with the letters Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad. The second surah that's initialed with this letter is surah number 19. Surah Maryam, which has 5 initials, Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad. So this is the second surah where we see the letter Sad as an initial. The third surah initialed with this letter is surah number 38, which is also entitled Sad. The name of the surah is Sad, and the initial is Sad. So these are 3 surahs initialed with the letter Sad, and when you count the letter Sad in the 3 surahs, the total comes to 152, or 19 times 8. There is one surah in the Quran initialed with the letters Yasin, two letters, Ya and Sin. It is surah number 36. See, the first verse is the two letters Ya and Sin. And if you count these two letters, Ya and Sin, in the whole surah, the total is 285, or 19 times 15. So you see that consistently the surahs contain a number of their initials that is consistently a multiple of 19. There are 7 surahs initialed with the letters Ha and Mim. 7 consecutive surahs, beginning at surah number 40. See, there is surah number 40, initialed with the letters Ha Mim. The whole verse consists of just the two letters, Ha Mim. 7 consecutive surahs. This is the last one, surah number 46. It is initialed with the letters Ha Mim, and you count these distinctive, unique letters Ha and Mim in the 7 surahs, and you find that the total is 2,147. The total of Ha plus Mim in the 7 surahs. This is 19 times 113. 2,147. This means if only one letter Ha or one letter Mim was lost or added in the last 1400 years, the whole mathematical system collapses. But as it is, you count them right now in any Quran anywhere in the world, and you find that Ha and Mim in the 7 Ha Mim initialed surahs totals 2,147, or 19 times 113. Surah number 42 has 2 sets of initials. As you have just seen, it has the initials Ha Mim in verse 1, and verse 2 of this surah has the initials Ayn, Sin, Qaf, 3 letters, Ayn, Sin and Qaf. And if you count these 3 distinct letters in this surah, Ayn plus Sin plus Qaf, the total is 209, or 19 times 11. Surah number 19 has the largest or the biggest set of initials. It has 5 letters. This is Surah number 19, and it is initialed with 5 letters. Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ayn, Sad. And you count these letters in this surah, the 5 letters, total 798, or 19 times 42. Now, I wish to remind you that the letter Sad, for example, interacts or is interlocking with the other Sad initialed surahs, surah number 7 and surah number 38. You remember that this letter Sad in the 3 Sad initialed surahs is 152, or 19 times 8, but it also is intricately intertwined with these letters in this surah to give us a total of 798, or 19 times 42. So you can see that this mathematical system is far beyond human capability.
سبح لله ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم له ملك
are 6 surahs in the Quran initialed with these letters, Alif, Lam, Mim, A, L, M. They are surahs number 2, 3, 29, 30, 31, and 32. This happens to be surah number 32. And every single one of the 6 surahs contains a total of these letters, which is a multiple of 19. Every one. For example, surah number 2 contains 9,899 of these letters. And that's a multiple of 19. 19 times 521. Surah number 3 also contains a multiple of 19 of these letters, Alif, Lam, Mim, and so on. Every one of the 6 surahs contains a total of Alif plus Lam plus Mim, which is a multiple of 19.
يحيي ويميت له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير هو الأول والآخر
There are 5 surahs in the Quran initialed with these 3 letters, Alif, Lam, Ra, A-L-R. And every single one of the 5 surahs contains a total of Alif plus Lam plus Ra, which is a multiple of 19. Every one.
سبح لله ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن.
Surah number 7 is initialed with the 4 letters Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad, as you see here. And when you count these letters, Alif plus Lam plus Mim plus Sad, in this surah, the total comes to 5,320, which is 19 times 280. And again, I wish to remind you that this letter Sad interlocks between this surah and the other Sad initialed surahs, surah number 19 and surah number 38, and every time within the surah and also with its sister surahs where the letter Sad is found, the totals are consistently a multiple of 19.
وهو العزيز الحكيم له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن.
Surah number 13 is initialed with the letters Alif, Lam, Mim, Ra, 4 initials. Alif, Lam, Mim, Ra. When you count these letters, Alif plus Lam plus Mim plus Ra, in this surah, you find that the total is 1,482. 19 times 78. There are 5 surahs in the Quran initialed with the letters Ha, as we see in Surah 19 here. There's the letter Ha, one of the 5 initials in Surah 19. And then in Surah Taha, there it is, Taha, and the initials Ta, Sin, Mim in Surah number 26, right here. Ta, Sin, Mim, and in Surah 27 it is the initials Ta, Sin, right here, and Ta, Sin, Mim in Surah number 28. Ta, Sin, Mim. You count these letters in the 5 surahs and you find that the total is 1,767, or 19 times 93. When people keep asking, why 19? Why did God choose the number 19 as the common denominator throughout the Quran to prove every element of the Quran? The numbers of verses, the number of surahs, the numbers of words from a certain root, the numbers of letters, the initials, as you have seen. And we find the number 19 in the Quran, in Surah number 74, verse number 30. We find the number 19, and we find it connected with the proof that the Quran is not human-made. Some people say the Quran is human-made. In هذا إلا قول البشر, as it says in Surah number 74, verse 25. And God says the answer to these people is the number 19, as we see in verse 30 of Surah 74. Now, why 19? It turns out that 19 is God's signature on everything He created. As to the answer to the question, why 19? We discover that 19 is the basic message of the Quran, because 19 is the numerical value of the Arabic word 1. So the whole message of the Quran is God alone. God is one. Worship God alone. And 19 is the numerical value of the word wahid in Arabic. When the Quran was revealed, there were no numbers. The alphabet letters were used as numbers, and the letter Waw also served as the numeral 6. The letter Alif was 1, the letter Ha was 8, and the letter Dal was 4. Wahid, 6 plus 1 plus 8 plus 4. The total is 19. And this is why 19 is the common denominator throughout the Quran, proving every aspect, every element of the Quran.
وهو معكم أينما كنتم والله بما تعملون بصير. له ملك السماوات والأرض الذين آمنوا بآياتنا وكانوا مسلمين ادخلوا الجنة أنتم وأزواجكم تحبرون. يطاف عليهم بصحاف من ذهب وأكواب. وفيها